Hello, everybody. I welcome you to another wonderful talk and interview at this Congress. Neue Erde has asked me, my name is Fred Hageneder, to talk with Shai Tubali, who is one of the Neue Erde authors and has been for many years now. You've got 4 books with us, and I'm aware of all of them. I love them right from the start. Let me say, I've been doing yoga since I was 18, so that's some 4 decades, and I've seen some teachers and many books come and go through my life, but I liked your books right from the start because you come across with great sovereignty and authenticity, and also a warm feeling, a loving feeling, a care that's really beautiful. So thank you for your work and for your books that we publish in German.
That's so extremely kind of you, Fred. Thank you. I really appreciate these words.
I also want to build a bridge here because I thought you were a bit shy about this Congress and participating with something called Peace with Nature, as I mentioned in my own essay for the book for this Congress, there's 2 things we call nature commonly. One is the green nature, the one that is under threat now, creation on this planet, the life support systems, the life network, the net of life, the web of life, the tree of life. And then there's the more, I call it cosmic nature, which is like physics. It's the nature of things. It's the universe. It's the way the universe creates a planet like this. And all the things that humans cannot change. But what we have to change our ways about is how we treat the rest of the creation we're in, that we find ourselves in, with all our fellow beings. So although peace with nature might sound like a great deal like ecology, which it should be, but there has to be that balance between the outer work, whatever we do and participate in to make life better for all sentient beings, and the inner work to look after ourselves and become a person that is more balanced and able to bring love and care and healing to this planet. So would you give us an overview, what you do, what other tools you have, and what your work is beside the chakra work? You also work with meditation and contemplation. You draw from many great sources like the Upanishads or Krishnamurti.
First of all, I really am happy with what you just said, because I agree that if we change this whole conception, because sometimes when we speak, and this is part of the nature of human thought, that it thinks in duality, it thinks in objects, it objectifies things as if they were really outside its own existence. And then we reach the very odd situation in which we believe that we are not nature. Then there is the need for peace with nature, because nature seems to be a sort of object that exists outside of us, and we are in relationship with it, but we really are nature. We are its continuation, and this is a completely false duality. Our body is nature. When we talk about how to relate to nature, it all starts with how we relate to our body, because this is nature. So in short, I think this is where I find common ground with my own work, because I would say that my most essential work is all about dissolving the illusion of separateness. This kind of painful, agonizing experience that we are something outside the universe, looking from the outside, and whereas we are really just leaves in the cosmic tree. This is what we are, and we borrow our very consciousness from that treeness. I think that this is what occupies my mind and my heart most of all, and what drives my work really. So just to explain what I do, I think you've already introduced that a little. I would say that what I do is that I research consciousness. My expertise, if we want to call it that way, it lies in the potential of our consciousness, the potential of the expansion of consciousness, and the implications of that expansion and potential. And what I do this through three main things. One is my own direct experience, which I've cultivated for decades. The second is a teacher in the field of self-development. And the third is academic research, which also intrigues me and occupies my mind a lot. So my work is all about moving, shifting from one field to another, while I consider all three completely interrelated. So personally, I went through an initiation into a yogic tradition for 7 years by an American yogi called Dr. Gabriel Cousens, who himself was initiated by Swami Muktananda, and it all belongs to a tradition called the Nityananda tradition. And this is where I actually came to realize the awesome world of the subtle body, the magnificent power that lies within our innermost body, consisting of the Kundalini, chakras, and the subtle nervous system. And on the basis of this personal direct initiation, I've come to develop all sorts of branches of the subtle body, including the psychology of the chakras, chakras as a way of life. This is the recent book, Chakras as Typology of Personalities. So this is, I think, one of my main fascinations in life. What the subtle body can do for us, because the subtle body is like a go-between. It stands on the border, connecting our mind, emotions, energy body, and spirit. So this is where my greatest fascination goes, and I've dedicated to that many books.
Wonderful. Let me say, I love the way you do that, and also that you have focused so far with what you're coming out with in books on the chakras, because our energy household is just crucial to everything, right? We need energy and a healthy body and healthy subtle bodies to do what we are here to do. And everything needs to be in balance. So the awareness of chakras and of systems like yoga to stay in a healthy, balanced way is very important to whatever one does. And the first book, Neue, Erde, published by you, was the one about the second chakra, which was a little revelation for me, because so far in the Western yoga world, it's commonly called the sex chakra, the sexuality chakra, and which is a very narrow view. And then also you run into problems in a Christian or post-Christian society with that. But it's so important to, in the chakra system itself. So, hey, sexuality is a normal, natural part of the human system, of most biology, actually. But to focus and call the book Joy, it's a chakra of joy, and not just the joy in sexuality and erotics, the joy of being alive, the joy of seeing colors, of smelling, of being, having friends, of the joy of loving, the joy of everything. And the way you deal with the psychological levels is, like you say, if you have under energy there, you run into exhaustion problems, depression, addiction even. So you're showing how important all that is to lead a good life. And I would say we need to, of course, we start with the Muladhara, the bottom chakra, to say we got to be grounded and have at least enough for the first four chakras, because the heart will help us, I think, the first and the fourth chakra, heart and root, help us to be immune to fear, because it seems what rules the world nowadays is fear. And also, what I believe fear comes from not knowing, not being open to the unknown, and just projecting and being in vague fears, and then propaganda can kick in and concretize these fears into something that really scares you. And you gave some talks, I think, about the dark side, the bits within us that yearn for transformation, that just need to be looked at and be liberated with love, as I put it.
Yes, that's very beautifully and wisely said. Thank you. Well, yes, I would say the first thing that I had in mind when I created that book was that I think that in traditionally speaking, the sacral chakra, the second chakra, has been considered mainly in its negative context. How to purify it, how to overcome it, how not necessarily how to suppress it like in a religious way, but think of it as a sort of impure blockage, hindrance to transcendence. And this is where I found it really strange. First of all, because we also hear traditionally that the sacral chakra is the springboard of the Kundalini, which makes it enormously important. This is where Kundalini, our spiritual consciousness, can leap toward the higher chakras. And second, we also have the tantric view, and tantra makes a lot of use of the sacral chakra. So why is it that we don't perceive it as the foundation of our life force, the foundation of our ecstasy, our ability to actually feel alive? Because it's one thing to technically be alive, we're all alive, but to feel alive, to feel this kind of expansion of the bubbling of the life force. In this sense, the sacral chakra is also the chakra of nature, because there is nature as a physical phenomena, which is just what it is, as a, I don't know, a hub of instincts and impulses. But there is nature as this tremendous thing, driven by the hidden life force of the cosmos. So through the sacral chakra, we communicate with the nature in us, with the happiness of the ever-existing happiness of the universe. Every day it's fresh. Every day it starts anew. And it's only our mind that gets old, that gets used to the magic of life. So if we don't have this kind of chakra alive, awakened, we actually lose touch with life's positivity, and we fall into depression. This is where we begin to feel that life is colorless. And that makes the sacral chakra so immensely important, and that's why it deserves the full book.
Absolutely. And you got another book on the heart.
Right.
Say something about that, the 7 secrets of the heart.
Yes. Well, the heart deserves, I think, more than just one book. It's like it's a whole encyclopedia, because I would say that it's really the center of our being. If we think of something like the sacral chakra or the root chakra, they are like foundations. But if we want to know what a human being is, and where to find our sense of meaning, our sense of purpose, our sense of the very meaning of human life, it is where we tap into our heart. But the thing is that the heart is, again, another chakra that is, well, drastically reduced, overlooked. And this is because we tend to focus on what we call the superficial layer of the heart. The superficial layer of the heart that is closer to the skin is actually the one that is most vulnerable, that gets easily traumatized, that gets hurt. And so we've begun to associate heart with just our emotions, our fluctuating emotions. What this book is all about is to reclaim the inherent power of the heart. Begin to acknowledge the heart as a source of empowerment, as a source of resilience, and actually as a place in us that is the opposite of fragility, the opposite of vulnerability. And that's I think the most important message, because we think the heart is so vulnerable, we keep protecting it. We don't want anyone to invade. We build a wall to not let anyone in. But the heart is actually a source of radiance, the seat of our true self, of our soul. And this is where we can actually access our indestructible self, the self that is timeless, the self that is a source of love, not in need of love, not desperately dependent on others, but actually the one that can bestow its grace on the world. So I think that's what we sometimes refer to as the heart of the Buddha or the heart of Jesus. That's I think Jesus, in many ways, he served as an embodiment of our very own heart, what it can do and how indestructible it can be.
Great that you mentioned Buddha and Jesus. I was just thinking, for too long in Western tradition, the heart has been too associated with love as in an emotion. Like when I was a teenager, I thought growing up in Europe, it sounded like, okay, it's love and hate as a pair, as an emotional pair, love versus hate. Soon after I was a teenager, I realized it's nothing to do with hate. Love, the opposite of love is fear. Love is not an emotion. Love is a state of being that where we tune in to something way bigger than our little human frame and mind.
Yes, that's immensely beautiful, and this is not just poetry. It's actually such a faithful description of what it is, because I think that yes, we've reduced love to just an emotion that is also conditional, right? I love someone as long as they love me, as long as they accept me. Sometimes my love can turn into hate. And this is, of course, not love. It's just an echo of love, or the way the immensity of love is reflected or expressed in human interpersonal relationships. But when we begin to follow love all the way to its root, where it comes from, we'll discover that love is the material that binds all the entire universe, all objects. Love is the source, it's the first cause, it's the why. It's the reason that everything came into being. Because if we think about this kind of mystery of the universe, the mystery of consciousness, at first, of course, it's not really a question of time. It's not like at first it was, but just for the sake of the metaphor, at first there was nothing. There was just pure being. There was just pure Godhead, just divinity, indivisible. And then why would the universe come into being? We don't have a reasonable why, but we can feel it here. And we can feel it as the first cause, the first urge. And that first urge is what we call love. It's that kind of drive to make everything manifest. So it's the very energy that drives everything. And when we connect with this energy, we also find that love as our own driving force, as the unending fuel that generates our own engine. This is where we find our own reason. And when we're driven by love, which is not an emotion, but the very reason for everything, then we never ask again, what is the meaning of life? We will know it. We will know it through our heart.
Yeah, it is so beautiful. This could be the end of a book, of a beautiful we to stay with for an hour or a day. But bringing it back down to the everyday life.
Yes.
So we all want to be there. We all have good intentions, but life is difficult. Life gets in the way and throws challenges at us. And the days are full. We want to do some practice, our yoga or chakra meditation or whatever path we follow in the practical spiritual sense. And we don't get to, which is why your latest book was a beautiful idea, I thought, ingenious, connecting the 7 chakras with the 7 days of the week, which has also got a nice international feeling for me, because the chakra law came from India. and the 7 days of the week, as far as I'm aware, were first discovered by the Mesopotamian astronomers way back, and then it spread around the world. And most cultures have a 7-day week. So it's just great to start with the root chakra on a Monday and then progress through the chakras until Sunday and all around again. Because the trick is just, if we have little exercises in our toolbox, they don't take hours or the whole morning, then they're more likely to be done, really. So yeah, again, I'm very grateful for this idea and the way you wrapped it up in a nice package to share with the world.
Thank you. Yes, exactly as you're pointing out, what intrigued me, because of course this was a practical idea. It wasn't that this really is traditionally considered, this kind of alignment of the 7 chakras with the 7 days of the week. But what intrigued me was exactly this kind of profound mysticism of the number 7. And we all live in this kind of mystical cycle because someone back then decided to design our very week, the very framework of our life, based on this kind of principle, the principle of the 7. And why is that? This is because 7 signifies mystically completeness. It's a whole cycle. It's from beginning to end. And also the 7 chakras, this is what they do. They signify completeness, the completeness of our human system, from the gross levels all the way to the most refined spiritual realms. So if these two systems are so mystically driven, mystically inspired, why not align them to create one, well, the ultimate chakra practice? Because I think that the best way is to begin to devote attention, a full day, to each of our chakras. And in this way, we fulfill the chakra, we activate it, we awaken it, we nourish it. And if we nourish our chakras, they nourish us. It's very rewarding. And also, when we climb up the ladder of the chakras, every week, by the end of the week, by the glorious Sunday, when we reach the peak, the crown chakra, we have awakened the entire chakra column. And as a result, we've also awakened our central channel. The central channel is the most significant purpose of the chakras. In the end, it's all about awakening, activating that central channel, because this is the fulfillment of our chakras, reaching that kind of unity, that kind of perfect symphony of our unified being. So this is the why it's the ultimate chakra practice. But at the same time, it's also a response, a resolution to something that I find really challenging, and this is our hectic way of life. Especially when we don't have a religious way of life, we don't live in ashrams, in monasteries, we in communities, we live deep inside the hectic Western stressful way of life. So I think we need some framework to be able to have the consciousness of all the different layers of our being, and to be able to nourish all of the 7 layers of our being without neglecting any of them. Because each of us, or many of us, have the tendency to nourish some dimensions of our being and life while overlooking other layers of life. So for those of us who tend to overlook interpersonal relationships, then there's the day of the heart. And this is the time when we finally remind ourselves, now it is time to appreciate, to cultivate compassion, to look at the faces of our loved ones. And for those of us who neglect meditation, then Sunday becomes the day in which we transcend. I think this has been the original purpose of Sunday.
Yes, I'm totally with you about the stressful Western life and all its trials and tribulations. In an earlier video of yours, you have said something which I find incredibly important, particularly for the time we're in now. You pointed out how we, with our separative mind, think about good and bad, and that obviously the I are always on the right side. We're always the ones who know it, and the others are wrong. Bob Dylan wrote a song about it long ago, talking about war, and each side says, with God on our side. And it's this conundrum that we have to get out of, that we have to allow, maybe the other side is right. Maybe there's just more than one real way of seeing reality and the truth. I'm not talking about fake truths and fake news, but I'm saying truth is complex. And I mean, none of us are politicians, I suppose, so we don't have to make that kind of decisions, but we have to make the decisions how to stay sane and balanced and loving in a world that tells us constantly there are evil guys, you got to condemn them. And I don't want to do that. What's your trick? What can you say to viewers? How can you stay out of that game and not fall into hate and love and I know better, and just stay a human being on a planet full of human beings and many other beings?
Yeah, so I love this point so much. I already referred to Jesus. I will refer to him once again and promise for the last time.
Oh.
Well, so Jesus said that the sun in the sky illuminates and bestows its warmth and light on everyone, whether they're evil or good, and it doesn't discriminate. And then he says, now you should also be like the sun, to have your heart non-discriminating, because you see, well, I think it's an inherent part of the human condition to believe that we're always on the right side, that and to also have this strange belief that we know the absolute truth about things, and we are absolutely right, unquestionably right, and that gives us a sense of confidence and security in a world that is, well, insecure. But this is actually very instinctual. What we need to begin when we to understand as we develop our consciousness and the consciousness of our hearts is to realize from based on our direct observation and our logic also, that it cannot be that good and bad are absolute, because everyone are certain that they belong to the good side, absolutely good side, whereas all others, they belong to the dark side. So this is how we live. We live in a, like the Lord of the Rings world, where we all belong to the good side and everyone else belongs to the dark side. Now this is actually nurtured a lot by politicians whose interest is to drag us into this world of polarization and hatred, where because that gives them power. We shouldn't accept the world portrayed by politicians. We need to have the real world, where real humans are, and where justice is relative, goodness is relative, bad is relative. And we can, I'm sure that we can all identify this in our own relationships. When we have quarrels, if we are sincere, we'll always see that we hold a partial truth and not the truth. So if we can begin to see that, then we will be able to go beyond tolerance. It's not just about being tolerant or accepting, it's about really seeing the truth that reality is complex. And instead of opinions, we should cultivate listening, because listening is the ability to embrace all perspectives and then to reach a sort of dynamic understanding of reality, evolving understanding of reality. And that's why, by the way, one of the themes that I've developed in the chakra world is the chakra personality types. And the chakra personality types, they help us understand that there is a reason, a deeper energetic reason behind the fact that different people have different experiences of life, all of which are perfectly valid.
That's a very important keyword, listening, because we were brushing on this thing about fake news when we say reality is so complex and there's more side to a truth than just one viewpoint. And yet we don't have to fall into anyone's fake news, because that's the armor, the spiritual armor, or the railing you can hold on to. It's just to listen. You listen to all sides, you listen to more than one view, and you let go of your own opinion, and you get around a picture, listening. And then you just give yourself a good time by listening to bird songs or cicadas or wind in the trees.
Exactly.
And all of them tell more than you think.
Exactly. Because only listening facilitates understanding, true insight into the nature of things. And so for listening, we have to place our attention without any reaction on a certain object, and without any reaction. And this is exactly what fake news does to us, is that it thrives, it feeds on our reactivity. It knows this will anger us, this will enrage us, this will terrify us. So it knows that we are going to jump from our chairs with this kind of immediate triggered response. So we need to be wiser than that. We need to be so wise so as to have our minds quiet enough to be able to tap into wisdom rather than reactivity and misleading information. Well, because to be honest, fake news is not only by conspiracy theorists. Fake news is also directed by the power holders that want to nourish us with misinformation. So for this reason, we cannot rely entirely and blindly on one source that tells us we know the truth. We have to develop this kind of self-authority, and that begins with our own quality of consciousness.
Yes. As a footnote, you are right. If someone now doesn't believe you with that last sentence, I want to say it is actually known, and whole books have been written about how the oil industry, for one, has spread fake news about the harmlessness of fossil fuels, and they took that playbook from the tobacco industry and the sugar industry, and it's been going around the industries to just tell people, buy our stuff.
Exactly.
Well, we have covered so much ground, and in such a beautiful and profound way, I think. I'm surprised. And it's been very enriching and nourishing. I hope for those viewers too. Is there anything that comes to your mind or heart now as a last word?
Well, I just want to congratulate Neue Erde for its celebration. I want to say that Andreas and the rest of the team at Neue Erde was the one to embrace my first book in German. And this eventually has become an influential book in the field of chakras. And so I really want to acknowledge his trust. And I want to say that this Neue Erde is a publishing house that has proved an unbelievable resilience throughout many decades of enormous changes in the book industry, frightening, terrifying changes. And I think that this kind of success is thanks to its spiritual strength, mental flexibility, listening, love, and Andreas' unique presence. So I think Neue Erde is a rare gem that is a beacon of light in a rather sometimes dark, crazy world. So I really wish from the bottom of my heart for Neue Erde, for everyone involved, to continue to serve faithfully and unwaveringly this most sublime principles of of the universe and the spirit.
Thank you. I agree. So I hope we meet again one day and talk on person. Walk in peace.
Yes, this hasn't been an interview. It has been a perfect conversation. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.